All right. Hey, everybody. This is Conversations with Mr. P. Now, for those of you that have watched most of mine, I have had a script of some sort. I've sent questions or made up some questions. Me and Andrew, there's no questions. There's no script. This is nothing. This is for those of you old people like me. This is like Seinfeld show. This is a show about absolutely nothing. My wife just said, "Jesus help us."
Life unscripted, baby.
Yeah, look at him with his Tampa Bay Bucks gear on. You want to talk about that for a minute? Go ahead and tell us how you feel, because I know you're happy about this.
Well, I can't say a particular player's name in the house because my wife is here and she doesn't like that guy. I'll say TB12
or
TB12.
one of his 15 trademarks he's got now, right?
Yeah, so, yeah. Or Giselle's husband. How about we go there? Giselle's husband.
We'll spit my tea out.
No, I'm happy that TB12 is in the Bay now. So
you guys should be contenders for the conference.
For the division, there's a running game that needs to be improved, and offensive line needs to be improved. And barring any injuries, I'm hopeful for a good season. So receivers, you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Cam Brate, Howard. It's a good receiving core. It's solid. They can score. And the defense came on last year, so we'll see what old man TB12 brings to the Bay. So looking forward to it. It'll be exciting. It's one of the most exciting things that's happened with the Bucks in a long time. So.
Yeah, and your wife should be fairly happy because they got a decent quarterback. He's gonna be young coming in, right?
Yeah, as long as the Bengals don't botch the draft and draft me or somebody like that,
which is still a possibility.
It's still possible. No, good grief. There's no way the Bengals can screw up this draft. Joe Burrow's there. All they got to do is sign him. He's been in town. She was telling me today. They've worked him out. He's been in town. He's it's a done deal. So he's an Ohio kid. He brings a lot to it. Pretty good attitude, good personality and stuff. I think it'll be fun for Bengals fans.
Yeah, he seems like a genuine guy.
Yeah.
That might help the
Southeast Ohio boy.
Right.
Athens.
Yeah. All right, so let's back up a little bit because people are probably going, who is Mr. Perry talking to?
Who's the fat guy with the ugly hat?
All right, so Andrew and I have known each other for, 5 years?
About 5 years now, yeah.
Okay, and it's kind of hard. It's funny because I feel like I've known you forever. We get along so well, and this is our typical conversation link right here. We start just chasing things down a rabbit trail.
Yes.
But you and I crossed paths in college. Didn't know it until what?
That's true, yeah.
Right?
Right, because let's see, your dad was in school the same time I was at Tennessee Temple.
He was, because I was in high school. Yep.
And Joel was bringing me pictures. Oh yeah, it's a picture of Pastor Chris.
Hey.
And us at church. So that's
hey,
good.
Hey, Joel, what's up, buddy? That's great.
So we can't bring Joel into the camera view because Joel has since the stay-at-home rule has gone into place, he hasn't worn clothing. So
okay,
I have an unclothed child running around the house.
You're gonna laugh at this. I got a text this morning from a teacher who I teach with. His kid is in middle school, and he said he comes downstairs every morning with the same clothes on he had the day before.
Oh. And
he said, and every day they're like guaranteed to be the same clothes. And he's like, "What's the point of me changing? I'm not going anywhere, Dad. It doesn't matter." Listen, it's bad for me. I don't know what day it is, but most days I have no idea what day. I look at the date, and I'm doing videos all day for my classes, and I have to look at it. What is the date? What is the date for this video? To me, it's either yesterday, today, or tomorrow. That's the only thing that matters right now for me.
Yeah, it's like being back in the dorm in college. To be honest,
it really is. Yeah.
Everybody's dressed in sweats, and people are rarely showering.
I still do, for the record. But
are you still showering? Okay.
Twice a day, like always. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Morning, night.
It's crazy, but
It is.
we'll get through it.
So anyway, Andrew and I have known each other for 5-6 years, but we crossed paths in college. Son, what? Oh, apparently I'm yelling because I have headphones on. Okay, so apparently,
okay.
It's bad. Okay,
Now you got to do the golf commentary. Apparently, it was 1986.
We're making fun of people. Don't worry about it. It's not important. This is a lot. Hey, listen, this is important. Seriously.
Sister minister.
Talking to Inkslinger. Yeah. Anyway, I think your wife's sister was on the same floor as Sonia in college, right? Across the hall. Okay. So.
Lynette. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I grew up with what is now Lynette's husband, Danny. So we have
Danny,
all these.
right. Right.
So we
have you guys go back to Jersey days, right?
Back to Jersey days in the early 80s, late 70s. Yeah. So we have all these paths that cross from all different places. It's kind of funny. One day I was in I went to see I think it was Pops in the hospital. This has been probably 3-4 years ago.
Oh yeah, when he was at the hospital in Marysville. Yeah.
Yeah, and Lynette walked in, and honest truth, I knew her, but I couldn't figure out why our paths were crossing and what was going on. And my head just almost exploded. And oh my word, that's right, duh.
Yeah,
just a weird to have all those different things going on.
Yeah, small world, So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, because you guys, let's see, when Tennessee Temple won the Christian College National Basketball Championship in '88.
I was there for both of them.
Okay, so the first one would have been probably my junior year, or
against Cedarville,
or maybe first senior year. So that would have been '88. Yeah, so you guys would have been in the gym that night, and of course I was up in the student section and stuff.
That place was packed.
Yeah.
I remember sitting there. I was shoulder to shoulder. My dad's on my left, and he's screaming at me about a play. And I'm like, I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
It was loud, and Cedarville brought a good crowd that weekend. I mean, there was a lot of folks down from Cedarville that weekend, and of course we had our our student section basically
you guys were
almost
good.
Filled the entire home side, and it was a crazy night there at the old McGilvery gym.
I've been to a lot of games in my life. That's still one of the best.
Yeah, that was a good game. It was
atmosphere.
a tight game throughout. Yeah. And Cedarville was loaded. They had a ton of talent.
They had some athletes
on that team. Yeah. They had a guy. It's funny because there was a guy on that Cedarville team that I crossed paths with years later, a guy named Gary Harrison. And Gary is from Gallipolis, Ohio. And we lived in Gallipolis for, upwards of 16, 17 years. And Gary is a Gallipolis boy, went to Gallia Academy High School, and then went to Cedarville, then went back, I think, and finished up at Rio Grande. And because he went to Cedarville for a couple of years, then went back and finished up at University of Rio Grande down there in Gallia County. And anyway, so then Gary was a teacher. I don't know. I can't remember if he was a teacher or not. He coached he was a teacher. Yeah. He coached there at Gallipolis. And so I met him years later, and I was like, oh, dude, I remember you from, blah, blah, blah. And he's, oh, really? And so, but yeah, it's neat. There were several guys on that Cedarville team that I later met a few years later when I was working at the University of Rio Grande, because Rio Grande and Cedarville were in the same conference together, the old Mid-Ohio Conference back in the day. And so I met several of those Cedarville guys, all those years later when I was working at the University of Rio Grande. I was like, yeah, I remember you guys. We beat you.
What was their view of that whole tournament and that game?
Oh, they got rooked. They totally, yeah. We were the homers, and everything was stacked against everybody else that came into Chattanooga that week. And
listen, when you look back on that, it was definitely the ultimate home court advantage.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean, that place was packed with us.
Yeah. I mean,
what does McGilvery seat? Is it 2,000?
McGilvery, Probably about 2,500.
Okay, and there's 2,000 for Temple that night.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
almost the entire student body was there that night, and we
standing
were.
room only.
Yeah, Temple student body at that time was probably running about 2,500,
Mhm.
2,500, 3,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, nearly the entire student body showed up for that
Yep.
game. We had a lot of folks from the neighborhood that.
Yep.
For folks not familiar with Tennessee Temple, it was in the Orchard Park neighborhood in Chattanooga, Orchard Knob, and
Mhm.
Highland Park neighborhood. Anyway, so and we have a lot of folks from the neighborhood that would come in to watch basketball, and we actually had that year. Well, we had Ray Sellers on the team, and Ray was a Chattanooga guy. He
Nice
had
player
gone
too.
to Chat State
Hmm.
and then came over, got saved and came over to Temple. And man, what a fantastic player!
Great player.
Yeah, for a guy his size, what about 6'5", 6'6", maybe?
I'd say
Probably
6'5".
6'5".
Yep.
But I mean, his inside game was just, I mean, smooth. He was polished. He was like I remember guys saying, he was like our Olajuwon, back in.
He had great poise in the post.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, you just couldn't rattle Ray at all. I mean,
Nope.
people throw elbows and stuff, and he was just one of those really smooth guys. So yeah,
Yeah,
good memories of that, man.
he had great poise, and then you got the Murr brothers who are just, I mean, just tremendous shooters.
Yep, old man Tim.
Funny thing about, I think I told you this before, but people who so the Murr guys, they're probably considered the greatest shooters in the history of the school. I don't know. I'm sure the people who came after us would say that's ridiculous, but and the Murr brothers, they could shoot the ball, and Dave was what, 6'1", 6'2", 6'1" maybe, buck 45.
Somewhere in there, yeah, probably 6'2", yeah.
And that kid was he was an incredible player. And so my sophomore or junior year of college, our team lost the intramurals championship. So they sent us to, what's that camp up there in Dayton?
Oh, Fort Bluff
They sent us
near Bryan.
So they sent us to represent Tennessee Temple in like a huge tournament. And we ended up having to play the Murr brothers team first round. I'll never forget. We're playing at Bryan College's gym. It's like a 10 o'clock game. So they gave us passes, got out of school and everything to go play in this thing. It's kind of cool. And we walk in the gym and it's Dave and Tim Murr. They lit us up and talked about the entire game. I mean, I think they put like 140 on us that day. Oh, they tore us up. It was bad. Aren't you going to guard us? Wow.
I mean, there were some nights that, I don't know that there were a few nights there. I don't know that David missed a shot.
Dave was one of the most pure players, like all around players I ever saw play. Period.
Oh yeah, he was just. It was watching him, and he's one of those guys. When the opposing team sees him get off the bus, it's like, another skinny kid. But I mean, he was one of those gunslingers, man. I mean, just played quiet guy. But I mean, he'd rip you up. He'd carve you up one side and down the other pretty easily.
Funny story.
And pretty good defensive player too.
The first time I ever saw him, my dad took me to classes with him one time, and we're going to go to classes, eat, and then go watch a game. And so I'm in class with my dad, and we walked out, and he walked by. He had on a jean jacket and like a polo shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad said, "See that guy?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "He's the best player on the college team." And I looked at my dad. I said, "Dad, if he's the best player on the college team, we're in trouble tonight." He goes, "You'll see." I was like, "Whoa, that dude's a different cat than I've ever seen." Holy cow!
Yeah.
Sheesh.
And yeah, it was those were fun teams there when I was in school. So.
Oh yeah, and then when I came for my freshman sophomore year, it was rough again. We had a really difficult time. And then my junior year, we were okay again. We had was it Joel Murr came along.
Mm-hmm.
Had a couple of kids from South America come in. We had some decent teams. I mean, they weren't the same level as those teams that I saw when you were in school, but they were a little bit better. My freshman sophomore year, we had some rough teams. We got thumped many a night, but I think there's a coaching change at that point too. I think Collins had left.
Yeah, Collins was probably gone by that point.
Yeah, he was.
Because we had the two older Murs when I was in school. Ryan Berger, kid out of Miami. Ryan's probably
Nice
about
player.
6'7", 6'8", good
Yeah, he's a nice player.
size.
Yep.
Yeah, left-handed guy and real smooth, good rebounder. Then Ray Sellers, Kelly Johnson.
Remember him?
I think Kelly was from
Washington,
yeah, Seattle area, something like that. And I mean, just a bulky guy, real physical, good rebounder, and I mean, he always basically guarded the other team's best big guy.
Yep.
And then Tyrone Armour. Ty was great athlete. So it was
Tyrone Armour dunked on me in intramurals. My freshman year, he was out of college eligibility, and we were the Fab Five. My intramural team, we were beating everybody. We beat the staff by 30. They were so mad at us; they wouldn't talk to us for days. And we had to play Martin second, and all the basketball players were on Martin second. No, I'm sorry, Phillips second. They're on Phillips second.
Phillips. Yeah.
Well, they had 3 kids who were out of eligibility, so they played intramurals. And so we were like 5-0, they were 6-0. So they made the game Wednesday night after church at like 8:00. So it was like the prime time game of the weekend or the week. So I remember we get in there and we're playing it at the high school gym, and it's packed. It is packed. And they're college players that are out of eligibility. It's just that simple. Yeah. And I remember I think it was Dwight Martin. Do you remember Dwight?
I know the name. I can't put a face with it right now.
See, I played against Dwight. I played against Dwight all through high school, and then he played for the college.
Okay.
I think he was either guy. I don't remember what happened, but he was playing now for this team. And Dwight throws it. I thought it was a shot, so I kind of half jump and turn, and I just see it was a lob to Tyrone, and he just caught it and just jammed it all over me. I'm just like, you gotta be kidding here. This is not right.
Stay on the floor, son.
The ball was so out of the picture. I thought he just made a mistake. No mistake at all. That was rough. So Andrew, what do you do now?
I am in journalism, and yes, I'm one of the enemies of the people. And I work at the Marion Star here in Marion, Ohio. And it's a Gannett newspaper. So we're in the midst of covering all things coronavirus in the state of Ohio right now. So kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And, it's I mean, it is what it is. We're trying to cover the local angle here in Marion County. Following up on what's going on with our local businesses. How the local people are doing in the face of all this, and still trying to keep up with the, covering the schools and, just everything that we would cover locally, but it's got that coronavirus tint to it, right now. So, and unfortunately, we got word today that we had somebody in the county that has passed away.
I saw that just a little while ago.
Yeah. So, so we, feeling it for that family, and hopefully we won't have any more, deaths due to that here in the county. So
yeah, our cases are a little high, but I think it's because they're skewed due to the prison population, correct?
Right. As of today, what's today? Today's what? Wednesday. Okay.
It is Wednesday. Yeah.
It's tax day, actually.
And even though it's not, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Wow. It took me till 9:54 p.m. to figure out that it's tax day. That's where I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, today the state health department reported we're at 164 cases.
Oh wow.
Locally, and there are 75 staff members at the prisons and 50 inmates locally that have been diagnosed with the COVID-19 virus. Now, I don't know that all of those staff members live in the county, so I don't know that all 75 of those go toward the county numbers, but all the inmate numbers go toward the county numbers, at least from what we've been told. Of course, I mean, the way they're figuring things changes from time to time, so that could change as well. But From what we are understanding, all the inmate numbers go, toward the county total number. So
how do you fix, and I know we're not going to solve any problems tonight, but how do you solve that problem? I mean, you got, a prison population is already so closely together. What do you do?
I don't know. It's an incubator, because, these guys are all stuffed in there, together. You've got upwards of, almost 2,500 inmates at Marion Correctional, and probably close to that number over at North Central Correctional. There's the two prisons there on the north side of town. There's Marion Correctional and then North Central. And then, of course, we have the county jail. And the county jail, we probably run about 200 on average or so, close to 200 in the county jail. And so, in a setup before a prison or a jail, there's no place to go. It's not like they can open the windows and air the place out, or so it's a really bad situation for the inmates and the staff at these prisons, because even from a staff standpoint, yeah, they might be going home for a period of time, but it's they've been infected, possibly infected. They're taking that home. They're bringing it back. And I don't know what the answer is to that. I know at Marion Correctional Institute, they've moved some of the prisoners to an old gymnasium. My colleague at the Star, Sarah, she wrote about that they've moved some of the prisoners to an old gymnasium, but it's an old gymnasium.
Right.
And so, and it's a prison gym. It's not like it's a high school gym. It's an old prison gym. So, it's a bad situation. They're trying to figure out, they're testing the inmates. And, from what we understand, the staff, they're doing their best to try to, keep these guys separate as much as possible, but you can only do so much because it is still a prison.
Absolutely.
So it's a tough situation.
And I think you and I are assuming with the same information, if it's accurate, is that we know it's highly contagious, and we know that in population centers that are very closely associated, it's going to spread a lot faster and a lot easier. I know everything else is debatable, and I'm not going to get into that today. But if those things are true, and it looks like it's true, because again, if you look at the numbers around our county, they're super low. And then when you go from our county to Delaware County to Franklin County, it just quadruples in numbers. And then if you go a county to our left or right, there's like 8 cases. So it does kind of prove the fact that if you isolate, it does slow it down. I was discussing it earlier tonight, is at what point though do we have to decide about herd immunity, or do we have to wait for a vaccine? I mean, I know you're not a doctor, I'm not either. We're just kind of shooting the breeze here, but what do you do?
Yeah, I've read a couple of things, a couple of different opinions on that. There are those who are, staunchly in favor of the social distancing, and say the only way that, we're going to beat this thing is to, maintain social distancing. And then I've read some people who are on the other side saying, well, you have to treat it like any other virus, and that, that the herd immunity is the key. But, when you have a virus that is as contagious as, and again, I'm like you, I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not not any type of healthcare expert. And I don't even play one in any type of determination here. But it's one of those situations where, it's one of those X-Files things. The truth is out there. And the truth is probably in between the staunch social distancing theorists and the staunch herd immunity theorists. But what that is, we don't know right now. I tend to, as far as what I've read, I tend to lean toward what some of the people are saying, that, or some of the experts are saying, that, we're not going to figure this out for a while. Now, what that looks like for everyday life, I think that's going to be up to, state and local governments and the individuals and families on how they're going to, approach the situation. So,
I've been saying this for a few days now. I have a feeling, and this is just a gut. It's not proven either. I agree with you in the science. The science is going to prove itself out in 6, 8, 10, 12 months. The problem is our economy can't wait 6, 8, 10, 12 months. But I also think we have a situation where you have people who are in positions of authority making decisions, who are having to make decisions, and they're realizing two things. Number one, lives are at stake. And number two, they have elections to win. And that may sound terrible, and I know they shouldn't be connected. But when you've got people who have elections to win, they realize if they don't play it safe, they're not going to get reelected.
Yeah, and there, I mean, as much as you hate to admit it, there is, but there is a bottom line factor, that's involved here. Like you said, because, number one, this is, I mean, we haven't forgotten this is an election year, and it's the biggie in U.S. politics because it's the presidential election year, and there's a lot, there are a lot of offices even at the local levels, that are up for grabs, and you also have a situation where local governments and local entities are trying to get, in some areas, here in Marion County in particular, there's 2 county-wide levies on the ballot. There's one for the Board of Developmental Disabilities. There's another one for the county jail. And levies are tough to pass regardless of the situation.
Yep.
But especially in this type of situation, and where some people have lost their jobs, they don't know if they're going to have jobs to go back to. You could have some businesses that will not recover from this, and so that's going to play a huge role in what the political landscape looks like, come November.
Yeah, that's a good point. What do you, since you cover all things Marion, what are you hearing? Or are you hearing anything from the locals about? I know we've had a lot of businesses that are trying to get off the ground. Is there there's got to be concerns, right?
Yeah, you've had some decent growth downtown in the last couple of years. You've had some guys that have sunk a lot of money into development, especially that Main Street corridor. There's been a lot of businesses that have sprung up in there, and some new businesses, and now they're shuttered. And so those guys are feeling it. Hopefully there's some relief coming. But for those businesses that just opened and never really got off the ground financially, trying to come back from this and start over again, that's going to be extremely tough. And I know the Small Business Administration is they're making some loan programs available, but for a business that just opened and probably already took out loans to get off the ground, I think the last thing they want to do is have to go to the feds and get another loan to float it. But that may be, the path that some of these guys have to follow. And of course, there's some older businesses that, have done, fairly well for themselves, but they're now closed. Some of those so-called non-essential businesses. I mean, they might be considered non-essential in regard to what state government thinks, but it's not non-essential to that business owner.
Yep.
And it's a tough situation. I'm not going to sit here and smack around state government, and I'm not, for the decisions that have been made, but it's hard. It's tough on everybody. It's those small business owners that are, were maybe just, making ends meet anyway. It's especially tough. So hopefully our business community will survive this. And, by sometime I hate to say this, but probably by sometime in the summer, when things get, back to whatever normal is, we can see these businesses come back. We've had a couple of local restaurants that have closed up entirely for the time being, just because they weren't really in a position they were small restaurants, maybe primarily pub type establishments. And so, food may have been a secondary sales item for them. Alcohol may have been their primary source of income. And, you don't really do carry out at a bar after you get off work. I don't speak from experience. But it's one of those things where those establishments have had to shutter, and how many of those come back, and it's hard, and regardless of how you feel about alcohol or whatever, it's still a local business, and those guys, it's the way they make money, and they're taking a hit,
and it still impacts the economy too.
Yeah, sure. They contribute to the local economy. They hire people. They pay taxes.
Right.
They're so it all one hand washes the other.
Yeah, those are all yeah. Those are all really, really serious topics, and like I said, I don't have the answers. One thing you did say, and I think this is interesting. I'm not going to mention her name because I had a friend do a video with me, my first one actually, and she's out of the country. And what I learned from her was they are able to do things because it is a socialistly run country and socialized medicine that we can't do here. And I'm not saying I want that, but in a pandemic, it sure makes things simpler. That I don't know if that's the right word or not.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
I mean, look, the day I was talking to her, it's been about a month and a half now. She pulled a map up for me from her area, and she could pinpoint where every single person is in this country that has it and where they are at that given moment. And if they leave that place, it's either a $500 fine or imprisonment for 14 days after they're done being quarantined. And I'm listening to her. I'm like, we can't do that. And that's a good thing. But during a pandemic, that obviously makes things challenging because we're trying to stop this. And if it is a 14-day quarantine and I leave the house and I touch two people and now I pass another 150, it just snowballs.
Yeah. And, and it's, in a society like ours, we like our constitutional rights, and rightly so.
Absolutely.
But there has to be a balance between freedoms. And I'm not saying that our freedoms aren't common sense, but for the purposes of maintaining health in our society at this point in time, there has to be some balance. But again, it's hard because you got a lot of people out of work right now. I mean, I'm not sure what I think the new unemployment figures will come out tomorrow, and I'm not sure what they're going to look like, but it's not going to be good. So there's a lot of frustrated people out there, and there's a lot of there's a lot of people that are hurting right now, financially, emotionally, mentally. It all kind of works together. I mean, when you're struggling financially, it weighs on you mentally and emotionally.
And then you got a few people. And then you got a few governors in some states that have just lost their minds with some of the things that they've decided to try to say and do. That doesn't help anything. You're in your house for 30 days and they tell you you're not allowed to walk out of your house or else, and they're like, or else what?
Yeah. It's and like I said, there needs to be some balance. And I mean, what Mike DeWine is doing here in Ohio, I think it's as close to a balance as you're going to get in this situation. It's not perfect. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like being cooped up at the house. Right. And I mean, I'm doing it, we're doing it like everybody else is. I mean, the state can send down an order. Whether or not you follow it is up to you.
That's right.
And DeWine, I think, where I think he has struck a balance is that, yes, there's a state order. Hey, you need to stay at home. You need to do the social distancing. Maybe you should probably be wearing a mask and gloves when you go out, to the grocery store to get gas or whatever to protect yourself and to protect others. But he hasn't come down and said, you stick your head out the garage door and I'm going to fine you $1,000.
Right.
And that's, and I say this, and this will probably come back to bite me. I don't see him doing that.
No.
I just don't think that's I don't think that's a situation that's going to come up.
I'll be honest with you. If he was going to do that, it should have been 2-3 weeks ago. If he tried that now, there'd be complete and utter pitchforks in the streets.
And I don't think he wants to do that.
No.
I mean, I've met DeWine on several occasions. Had a chance to interview him on numerous occasions in the past. And granted, he's not everybody's cup of tea.
Sure.
He's not a staunch conservative. That's not that's not him. He's conservative to a point. He's more moderate, than anything else. And for a lot of Republicans and conservatives that are to the right of him, they don't like that. And I get that. I understand that. There's some things I agree with him on. There's a lot of things I don't agree with him on. Politically speaking, and this situation, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point and say I think we're trying to make, we're doing our best, I think, in a bad situation. I don't, as somebody who enjoys their freedom as much as anybody else, I don't like some of the stuff, but I understand why it's being done.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt. Yeah, I agree with you. I felt like, I don't like it, but at the same time, I felt like there's been a decent balance. As a school teacher, I want to go back to school and see my kids, but I also realize that, for the most part in our school, most of the kids are relatively healthy, but what if they get it and then they pass it to a relative that's not healthy? And
Right.
Again, I think to what I understand, our governor's not closed school yet. I think he's got grandkids that are, I think, pushing him to not close. We're the only state in our whole region that's not closed yet. I would imagine
Right.
it's coming. I think it's coming. Our school's planning right now 2 graduations, the real one, and then the one's going to happen probably in July. And nobody likes that, but like you said, at the same time, if we are inconvenienced for 3 or 4 months and we stave off our healthcare system and our healthcare workers from being protected for a little bit, I get it. At the same time, like you said, we can't sustain this model right now for months on end. That's not possible either.
No,
It's not gonna work.
economically, it's not going to work. And I think, the governor knows that. He has said as much in, several press conferences. He knows that, there's, at some point we have got to, do some kind of slow roll opening of businesses. You have to, you got to determine, okay, this is what we can do. And I think it's going to determine, or it's going to be determined by, what the numbers look like in the next couple of weeks. We have about another 2 weeks before we get to the next deadline.
Yeah, I think the next deadline is May the 1st.
Right.
I think either late next week we'll probably hear about schools being canceled for the year. I hope this is something I've been trying to tell people is, listen, I want to go back, but at the same time, as an educator, I need to know planning wise what I'm looking like for the next couple of weeks. Because if we went back on May the 5th for our school, that means that I'm in school for 2 weeks. It's going to take a week to get back to normal.
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
It's a wash. Yeah, exactly.
Wash.
So, and I'm like you, I think, and I've told, my wife, works for one of our local schools, and we've talked about this quite a bit. And, administrators in her district, there's a lot of planning going on. They're looking to the future. And not just her district, there's school districts all over the place. I've been reading about that, they're not just taking a look at the rest of this academic year. Right. I mean, there are real discussions going on about, depending on what happens and how long we're out, what happens in August when we try to go back to school. Do we go back to school in August? Or how are we set up to remotely educate these kids if we have to at the beginning of the 2020-2021 school year?
Yep.
And that's for parents and guardians of kids, that's a terrifying thought, because for the people who need to get back to work and who don't have viable daycare and childcare options, what are they going to do with these kids if they can't put them back in school?
And I think if they come out with that model though, Andrew, I think the stock market will crash again. I do. If they say that right there, I don't think we can sustain that. I understand the concerns of a second wave hitting, and I get all that. I have friends who've had it. One from college was in the hospital for 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm not trying to, people who have it, who may watch this, I'm not trying to downplay it at all. But at the same time, man, if we shut down our economy for months at a time here and then there, I don't know how we can sustain that.
Yeah, and I don't know, and I'm not necessarily talking about shutting down the economy again, but it's it's a matter of okay, do we continue to put the kids in in these situations, and again, I think it's going to depend on what these overall numbers are looking like.
Right.
Especially, and not even May. I'm talking about what the numbers are looking like in June, because the June and July, especially those June numbers, are going to determine what school districts do as far as planning for August.
That's true. And sports.
Because, yeah, exactly. And there's there's a lot of discussions going on, right now as to, about, well, what do we do if this happens? What do it's and there's just a lot of concerns, and one of the concerns for a lot of districts is funding, because the state is having to move some money around. Public school district funding is going to be affected by this, as well as the voucher funding. All of that school funding, whether it's for public schools or the voucher program, is being affected by this.
Yes, big time. You're right.
Yeah, so it's a tough situation. Lawmakers got a lot of tough calls that they're going to have to make. Here in the next few weeks, probably not just months, but next few weeks. So.
Did you see that the University of Cincinnati has already canceled their men's soccer program?
Yeah.
That was interesting. I don't know if I'd be curious to know how much of that was this or a perfect storm.
And you know me, I'm despite the Buccaneers hat, I'm a soccer guy.
Yeah, he is big time. Yes.
Okay. And so, but we also know that at the collegiate level, whether it's at the high school or the collegiate level, that soccer is not a revenue generating sport for the schools. I mean, especially for colleges, it's football and then it's men's basketball at most institutions. Some institutions, Connecticut, Notre Dame, places like that, women's basketball makes money. But the vast majority of institutions, it's football and it's men's basketball that make the money. And so, I think some men's college programs are going to suffer again as a result of this. Like you said, UC canceling, men's soccer. I won't be surprised if, some other programs, say swimming, wrestling, some of these other programs that, may, if they're not done away with altogether, they're put on hiatus, especially fall programs put on hiatus for one season until they see that, they can bring them back. And I saw that UC was, are they doing a hiatus or did they just end the program altogether?
It's shut down, and they've told the kids who are on scholarship that they're going to honor their scholarship. They want to stay at the school, or they can transfer out immediately and play someplace else this coming year. I was talking to a friend of ours who plays for Wright State. He actually almost went there, and now glad that he did not, because that had been a mess, especially in this. I mean, what do you do if you're a kid that wants to play? And now most D1 programs already have the roster set. That's not that, D1's set for next year. So now you're a kid who's going to have to walk on someplace, probably is preferred walk on for soccer. There's very little money anyway for soccer. It's going to be a very interesting scene. I hope that's the only domino for soccer. I don't know if you saw this today, but this afternoon, the DA program shut down for the United States. There's no more development academy. Did you see that?
I saw that, yeah, and that's that, like you said, that's one of those things that I don't know that they were planning to do it this soon, but this gives them, this gives U.S. soccer an out right now. They say, well, we're not, we can't bring these guys together anyway, so we go ahead and shut it down until further notice or whatever. So
Yeah, I actually saw a tweet right before you and I came on from MLS. I think this was planned because MLS has already announced that they're going to start their own, basically, academies. I think this is a business decision from U.S. Soccer, since U.S. Soccer and MLS.
MLS runs U.S. soccer anyway.
Right.
Let's lay that out. So that's we can go down that trail tonight if you want to. I have no opinion on that.
Yeah, listen. Let's talk about something happy for a second. The German league's supposed to be playing games in like 5 weeks. How's that going to happen?
The what?
The Germans are supposed to be playing games in 4 weeks from now.
The Belarus is still playing in empty stadiums. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's Belarus. Who cares?
The hardy Belarusians. This is Milo. He's a large cat.
Yes, he is. That's a big cat, man. Look at the size of that thing. Does not look happy.
You want to stay here, buddy?
That'd be a great meme right there. No, but they're saying Bundesliga will start playing in, I think, the second or third week of May.
Yeah, I read that. So, hey, they're Germans, man. So
I mean, if anybody's going to have good testing, it's going to be them.
Yeah.
And
they're still in shape. That they've probably been forcing these guys to work out on their own. So
it wouldn't. Oh well, I'm sure they all have. I know a guy I follow here in the States. He plays USL. He has to weigh in every morning for his club, and they have a watch band, and he has to do all his stats every day for the club. So if the USL is doing that, trust me, the Bundesliga's got something going on.
Yeah. And it depends. I haven't seen the numbers, the statistics for Germany in the last week. I haven't looked at the European numbers in the last week, but if they feel like things have flattened out enough to use the term of the time period. If things have flattened out there, then it may be safe for them to go back and play. So you're only going to keep football shut down for so long.
It's too big of an industry. Well, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. And that's the one I've been watching. There's talks already that the third division in England's going to start playing again. Milo needs to be the mascot for this part of my channel. I like that. Milo and Django, my cat's sleeping on the other chair watching us right now. But if they can get soccer in empty stadiums and start playing again, I know baseball's discussed it. UFC tried to do it last week, and finally they were told to stand down by ESPN, and the president of Disney told Dana White to back off. That's hilarious. UFC
Danger Island.
Mortal Kombat, here we come.
No doubt. Dana White. I tell you what, though, he's a boss, isn't he?
When he came out and said that he had a private island set aside, I was like, what are you talking about? And then I was on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see this thing, and it says, no UFC 249. So I pull up the clip, and he's just like, let's be honest. He goes, the head man at ESPN and Disney called me. They told me to stand down. So I am. I'm like, what in the world is going on?
I watched his, if you want to call it a press conference, his one-man show when he was talking about that. And he just, he said, they've got the money, and when the guys with the money tell you shouldn't do it, then maybe you shouldn't do it. But he said, we will fight, and we will fight soon.
Yeah, he keeps saying that.
That's a fat cat.
Yes, it is. That's a very fat cat. I don't know. I hope we, listen, last week I watched on ESPN Horse, and I got through 5 minutes of that. I said, I can't do this. Emma, did you get the dog?
The Ocho.
I can't be watching people playing a horse virtually. That was insane. Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't watch it. It's one of the few bizarre things that I haven't watched over the last month.
Okay, so let me set the scene for you, because it was worse than I thought it was going to be, and that's saying something. All right, so you've got Mike Conley, who is apparently his home is here in Columbus, right? And
Yes.
he's got a private gym in his house, and the gym is designed in that Memphis style with like the stripe in the. It's a beautiful gym, right?
Right.
He's playing horse against Tamika Catchings, WNBA star, right? She is in Indiana outside on a backyard hoop, like just a plain old backyard hoop, like in a subdivision. So he's like, standing
Jimmy
in this.
Chitwood.
Yes, he's standing in this gym with like perfect lights, perfect. I mean, you name it, and he's doing all these shots off of hardwood, and she's out there standing in the grass with the wind blowing. I was like,
Hoosiers, baby. Was Norman Dale out there?
No,
make her do push-ups every time she missed a shot.
He had like 2 cameras. I mean, again, and she's got like an iPhone attached to something to moving it to show each shot. I'm like, what are you doing, ESPN? What are we doing?
4 passes, Tamika, before you shoot. Did you see Norman Dale coaching a WNBA team? Take Norman Dale and put him in the WNBA.
There's a couple of star coaches in movies I'd like to put in real life basketball today. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. Norman Dale, WNBA.
I just watched. Was it last week? I watched the documentary on the last days of night.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, I've watched that. That's a great documentary.
I didn't know how that ended. I had no idea the guy that was part of passed away. I was like, what did I just watch? You gotta be kidding me. Oh
yeah, there were people in Indiana that were cheering when the guy what was the guy's name again?
Was it Neil?
I think so, yeah. And there were people in Indiana that celebrated the poor guy's death after he passed away. Just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. But no, hey. I mean, Knight worshipped, still worshipped in Indiana.
You know what comes on 4 days from tonight, right?
What's that?
The Last Dance.
Huh?
The Last Dance? What do you mean, huh? The 10-part documentary on Jordan in the last season?
Oh, that's next week?
That's this Sunday.
Oh, I'll have to record that.
Listen, for all you people out there who may try to get a hold of me on Sunday, I'm not available.
Don't do it.
The doors are locked. I'll have a Jordan jersey on. Listen, yeah, I am so pumped. I didn't know why they call it The Last Dance. Did you even know that part?
No, what? I don't know.
So Phil Jackson and the Bulls found out that this was their last season. Management told them, none of you guys are coming back next year. So Phil Jackson would name every season. When they walked in on the first day, they all had a little binder, and it said The Last Dance on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't wait for this. That's going to be so great. I can't wait. And they had Bill Laimbeer. It's a Bill Laimbeer yesterday morning on ESPN asked about who the greatest player was, and he's just trashing Jordan. I'm like, of course he is. It's Bill Laimbeer. He's bitter. Angry and bitter Bill.
The inventor of the Jordan rules.
That's exactly right. For all of you young pups watching this, go back and watch that stuff, man. That clothesline was a legal move.
Go on YouTube, dial up Michael Jordan.
And the Bad Boys.
Enjoy.
Yes.
Yes, and the Bad Boys. I tell you what, I was and I'm not ashamed to admit this, Bill Laimbeer is my all-time favorite Detroit Piston.
What?
Yes, he's an awful human being.
Yeah, he's something. I hated him. Oh, I hated him almost as much as I hated Larry Bird. I hated both of them.
Bill Laimbeer, for us guys in the 80s who couldn't play ball worth a lick, he was our patron saint.
That's fair.
When I played basketball in high school, and I was horrible. I was terrible. And so, 5'11", and they put me at I played power forward at 5'11". Of course, it was Christian school basketball. No offense to folks who go to Christian schools. I went to a very small Christian school. There were 6 of us at graduation. There were more administrators than there were graduates at my graduation. That's how small my school was. So anyway, I played basketball my sophomore, junior, and senior years. I was horrible. But I used to be a good athlete before I chose to get fat. And so, in high school, I was a good athlete. I could rebound. I was strong. You know, I lifted weights and stuff. I was strong. And so, coach taught me how to play defense. That's all I did. And so, coach told me, well, he said a good role model for you for defense is Bill Laimbeer and Rick Mahorn from the Pistons.
Oh yeah.
And so I watched the Bad Boys, and I aspired to be a cross between Rick Mahorn and Bill Laimbeer. So
I actually met Rick Mahorn one time. When he
he's a really nice guy.
Well, when he got traded to the Sixers, I was in singles at that point in high school, in college, and we were at a restaurant in New Jersey, and I like you, I can recognize players because I watch enough sports. And all the guys with me were like, "Yeah, who is that?" And he walks in, he's 6'9", every bit of it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, that's Rick Mahorn. The Sixers just got him like 2 days ago. He must have been in probably house shopping in South Jersey and that kind of stuff."
Right.
So somebody wanted me to get his autograph for him. So I walked up. Well, he did not see me. Right, I'm standing there real quiet, like trying not to interrupt their family time. Is the whole family there? And he turned around and saw me. He didn't know I was there. He about flipped out. Like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I am so sorry. I just want to get your autograph." He's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." And so I get the autograph. I walk back, and people around the restaurant like look at me like, "Who is that?" I didn't say a word. I just walked back to my table. They like got up and walked out like 2 minutes later. I'm like, "Okay, I should have done that. It's my bad." He had the whole family there, but he seemed really nice. I said, "Welcome to Philadelphia," and blah 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 whatever. But he was a nice player on those Pistons teams. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was a dominant force in the among power forwards back in the day. So
those
super physical.
Pistons teams, they remind you almost like a hockey team where they had like enforcers.
Yeah.
That's what they were.
They were more physical than the Red Wings at that time. So sorry, hockey fans.
Yeah, let's just throw everybody under the bus. All right, man. Well, listen, we're gonna kill this because we're already an hour in, and I have an audience that has the attention span of me, which is not a good thing.
I'm sorry. What'd you say?
That's right. Well, maybe we'll do this again sometime because I know you've got time and I've got time. We can discuss other things and make people angry and upset with us, and that'd be cool too. So
we'll talk 80s pro wrestling next time.
Yeah, you got some stories too. I know you do. So for all of you who've been watching this, I do have another one coming up after Andrew with a former student named Brandon, and that's gonna be a really good one. I'm looking forward to that one. That's I'm gonna record that Friday night, so we get that over the weekend. And otherwise, have a great one. Looking forward to you, Andrew. Thanks so much for coming on, buddy. And Milo the cat. Yes.